It is a very common trend for great thinkers, people who really strive to acquire knowledge and to become someone with greater substance in their minds, to become humble with the passing of years. Not all, of course. There are always the arrogant intellectuals. They exist, and they've always existed. But most of them, most of great thinkers, uh, become humble, more modest with the passing of years. Why is that? Why does that phenomenon happen? Well, because the acquisition of knowledge is in a way a trap for the mundane, profane, earthly man that desires power, wealth, and dominion over other men. For those kinds of people, it's a trap because by acquiring knowledge, you are uh, going down a path that will break you, that will shower you with humility, that will make you a more humble and a less certain individual. Because when the thinker studies the great subjects, the great mysteries of humanity, he develops new understandings, new perspectives, and he starts to obtain new pieces of the great puzzle that is life, also understanding that that same puzzle is much bigger than he ever imagined. So again, the the pursuit for knowledge is something that will humble you, that will make you question yourself, question your previous uh, certainties and ideologies and way of thinking even. And so, the more you know, the more you strive to know, the more you understand what you don't really know. That's why Socrates, the great Greek philosopher, said that he only knows that he knows not. That phrase is often copied and paraphrased, but the true meaning of that is much more deep than most think, because it's not just the idea, the understanding, and the admission of lack of knowledge. It's also the understanding that life, the universe, the cosmos have so many mysteries, so many unknown aspects that the individual doesn't know anything about them, and he will probably never know anything about them. Not only because it's difficult to acquire that knowledge, almost impossible, but also because he is a human being, and human beings may not be um, intellectually developed enough in order to understand the great mysteries. To understand that you only know what you don't know is also to understand that you may be a limited individual, both physically and also mentally. And you may not um, be able to understand the great mysteries, not only because of lack of knowledge, not only because you aren't able to find this or that answer, but also because you might not even be able to comprehend some of the things that you are trying to understand. So this is obviously an humbling experience, an experience that makes you more modest, that makes you less arrogant, that in a way diminishes your ego. It doesn't make you any less of a human being. It doesn't make you a subpar human, but it makes you a more conscious person about human life and your surroundings. It makes you someone that understands the true extent of the unknown, someone who understands how small you are in the grand scheme of things, and also someone who understands your limitations, both your intellectual and physical limitations, someone that understands your frailty, the frailty of the human body, the frailty of the human mind, someone that understands that uh, everything is not under your control, contrary to what hustle culture and things like that try to tell you, that you are the captain of your ship and your destiny, you command your destiny, and so on. To be a thinker that has undergone through a humbling experience is to understand that all of those lines of thought, all of those cliches are just lies, are just fantasies. You are not the captain of your ship. You don't command your destiny. You don't command anything at all. The human body and the human mind are frail, and in effect, in this world, many people are just at the whims of luck, at the whims of fortuna. The Roman civilization, the Roman kingdom, the Roman republic, the Roman empire understood this better than we can nowadays. In a way, they were more advanced in this regard because they understood the role of fortuna, the role of luck in the lives of the individuals. And when someone fails, they wouldn't call that person a loser. They would try to understand if that person failed because he didn't work, he didn't want to work, he didn't want to put the necessary effort, or instead, if he failed despite doing all that, but not being blessed, let's say, by fortuna, by not being helped by fortuna, by not having the uncontrollable circumstances of life in his favor. Nowadays it's not like that, and so in a way we are now more foolish than the ancients in that regard, because they understood that role in a person's life, and so in a way they were more of a thinker than many people are nowadays. No wonder that most of the great philosophers came from ancient civilizations. But having said all that, in the magnificent Stars show named Spartacus, the character Marcus Crassus once said that doubt is the greatest enemy of man. And true, that's true, but not of any man. Doubt is the greatest enemy of the materialistic, earthly, and overly ambitious man. The man who wants to gain power beyond any means or necessity. The kind of man who wants to accumulate wealth just because. The kind of man who wants to have dominion over other men. Doubt is the enemy of a man such as this, because those kind of men, they need to be extremely confident. They need to be arrogant. They need to have no doubts. They need to be a fool in that regard, because only a fool has complete confidence in himself and no doubts at all in his life. But to gain success in this world, you have to be a fool, often a narcissistic fool, because that's what the world privileges. And so Crassus was right in that regard, but he was right when he was talking, if he was talking about a specific kind of man, because the men who inversely are more centered on knowledge, on spirituality, on being, on existing in this world, but not being a product of this world, that kind of man doesn't really see doubt as his greatest enemy. He sees doubt as a consequence of the acquisition of knowledge. Because again, if you acquire knowledge and if you seek knowledge and you understand your limitations, your frailty, your smallness, the dimensions of the things you don't know, the depth of the unknown, you are unable to be extremely confident. You are unable to believe you have the world in the palm of your hand. So in a way, yes, the thinker doesn't see doubt as his enemy, but the narcissistic fool does. In that regard, that's why Mark Twain, the great writer, said that all you need is ignorance and confidence, and you will have success in this world. That's exactly the contrary of what Crassus said, and it comes in league with what we are saying right now. The fool, you have to be a narcissistic fool, overly confident, and with a great dose of ignorance, because again, only if you have a great dose of ignorance can you be extremely confident, and then you will be successful in this world, because people react well to the simulation of competence. You don't really have to be competent. You don't really have to be someone who really does a good work, whatever that is. You just have to simulate competence. You have to make others believe you are great and you are capable of doing good things. And so the fool is privileged. And that's why you see a bunch of narcissistic, psychopathic fools in the top places of many of the great organizations in this world. That's not by chance. That's because of this pattern. Mainly because they are not thinkers. They are not people of knowledge. They are the fools, the overly confident fools who are benefited in our fallen world. Because that's what the fool is. The fool knows everything, and he knows everything. So he has no doubt. And he has no doubt because he never acquired knowledge. He never seek knowledge. He doesn't understand the depth of the unknown. He doesn't understand his limitations. He doesn't understand that he isn't in control of his destiny, and he is at the whims of forces that he doesn't understand. He can't understand that, and so he is boisterous, loud, overconfident, and acclamated in this world. That's a shame, but the thinker shouldn't refrain from his path just because of his reality. The thinker is more humble, the thinker is more modest, the thinker often doesn't have an ego and tries to be more respectful, because in his journey for knowledge he was humbled and he was broken down by the same knowledge that he tried to gain. If you like this video, I ask if you can leave a like and subscribe. And having said all that, may God bless you and have a excellent Easter. And if you are a believer, may you praise our Lord Jesus Christ. And I see you in the next one.